Chris, Matthew Knies got a little creative in trying to screen Sergei Bobrovsky in Game 2, and he might have got away with one.
Absolutely. For those of a certain vintage, you might remember the old Sean Avery rule, which was really just a rule interpretation of unsportsmanlike conduct. But back in the 2008 playoffs, it was a big story when Avery was doing everything in his power to take away Martin Brodeur's vision at the time, waving his stick around. This wasn't exactly that with Knies, but he did, use his elbows, his shoulders, his hands a little bit to do that to Bobrovsky, and the referees actually told him that could be a penalty. And so they gave him the benefit of the doubt, so to speak, in terms of not assessing that call immediately and telling him not to do it. I suspect he'll take that advice because he doesn't want to put his team down. But the Panthers, I think in this case probably wanted a penalty called in that situation. The Leafs were on a power play, of course. It was early in the game. And so, lesson learned for, I guess, one of the youngest member of the Leafs team who, safe to say, probably doesn't even remember Sean Avery playing in the league.
Yeah, huge potential turning point there if that gets called. Whatever the Leafs are doing, regardless of whether Knies is getting his arm up, they are doing a good job getting to Sergei Bobrovsky in this series. 9 goals on 50 shots. Is Bobrovsky the Panther under the most pressure tonight?
I think that's a fair call. I mean, look, he's not someone that gives you the impression he feels pressure. I mean, even today, they called it a very optional morning skate. He was the one regular out there on the ice doing his usual routine, very routine-oriented guy. That's one thing Paul Maurice said has helped make him successful, putting tough outings behind him, is he just stays to that foundation. And so, when you look at 9 goals against through 2 games, I mean, that's just not going to be good enough for the Panthers to win this series. In fact, Maurice said, we scored 4 and 3 in those 2 games in Toronto. That usually should be good enough for us to win 2 games, which tells you that they're expecting to give up 2 or less in these games, which is what they did exactly in that 2023 series. If you remember against the Maple Leafs, it was 2 goals every game the Leafs managed in that series, and Florida got it done in 5. So, defensively, they're going to look to tighten up in front of Bobrovsky, but this guy was, one of the stars of their 2 Stanley Cup runs the last 2 years, getting to the final, and they're going to need him to be a difference maker, or else this could be a quick series.
What has to be also encouraging for the Leafs is Austin Matthews hasn't scored yet, so you'd think that at some point he's going to break through. He's getting matched up against the Alexander Barkov line, and even though Matthews himself hasn't scored, Toronto's top line has produced the game-winning goal in both games. What is allowing the Matthews line to get the edge on the Barkov line so far?
Well, I think defensively, Austin Matthews has taken a lot of strides the last few years. Obviously, that line with Mitch Marner and Matthew Knies, I mean, they're one that's trusted to go against the top competition, not just because they can score against them, but because of the way that they, stay composed in their own end, don't give up odd man rushes, those types of things. So I think that this is a trade the Leafs will make in this series. I mean, with someone like Matthews, look, you expect whether it's a power play goal at some point to break through. Obviously, he can do it at even strength as well. But, when he's going up with 2 Selke Trophy winners on the line that he's been principally matched up with at even strength with Reinhart and Barkov, I mean, I think that you take this all day long. In fact, it's 3-0 in the series at even strength for the Matthews line. So, look, of course, you'd love to see him score, but a lot of other guys in this lineup are getting it done. I think William Nylander, has to be said, is getting a slightly easier lift in the Panthers lineup in terms of his matchups, and he's been the offensive star so far from Toronto's side.
Full skate for the Leafs today. No lineup changes expected for them. We think there may be a game-time decision. Well, we know there is a game-time decision. Some question with the Panthers lineup. We'll see what happens there. Of course, we know Evan Rodriguez left the game in Game 2 after that hit from Scott Laughton. He did return, but you got to wonder exactly where he's at physically.